How's it going, everyone? Euler Gonzalez here, and today we're going to talk about now is the React in Typescript, which is a course taught by Steve Kinney. He is the front-end architect at Temporal. Okay, and now the goal of this video or this course is as a way of how can we now use React with TypeScript as a way to know which shape of the data we are working, and also how can we now have much predictability about when we write our user interface using React. So let me now, first things first, actually is, from this course, which is something that you're not able to see what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna take notes out of this. I'm gonna first is, based on that preview, write it down the goal of this course. And the goal of this series of videos is as a way to now improve my technical communication skills, especially when I need to work with college and ultimately to solve the client problem. So be precise in my communications when I need to find or to provide any solution, no matter how complex it is. I need to make that meaningful to others, meaningful for your teams, for the business people, for the shareholders, for your customers, and that's it. So this is the reason of this series of videos. All right.
Hi, my name is Steve Kinney. I'm the head of front-end engineering at Temporal, and this is a course on React and TypeScript. Using React with TypeScript allows you to quickly and easily type your components, make sure you have the properties you're expecting.
Exactly. React and TypeScript make you to easily type your component, get the shape of the data.
At front-end engineering at Temporal, and this is a course on React and TypeScript. Using React with TypeScript allows you to quickly and easily type your components, make sure you have the properties you're expecting.
Make sure you got the properties that you expected. All right.
It allows you to quickly and easily find errors and bugs without even leaving your editor.
Well, exactly. So React TypeScript makes you easily to type your components. Make sure you got the property that you expect, and make sure you get the property that you expect, and easily debug your apps without leaving the code editor. Right.
In this course, you'll learn how to use the editor to find the types of various different React components and their properties inside of Visual Studio Code. You'll learn how to use the context API,
which is another important. So we'll learn how to use TypeScript with our Visual Studio Code editor. Okay, so we'll learn how to use TypeScript with our Visual Studio Code editor, and
React hooks, as well as type props in your React applications. Find the types of various different React components and their properties inside of Visual Studio Code. You'll learn how to use the context API.
Exactly. We're gonna see how to use TypeScript with our Visual Studio Code. I think this is now this. I think this is now the specific goals. This is part of the specific goals here. Yep, this is now the specific goals.
React, even your editor. In this course, you'll learn how to use the editor to find the types of various different React components.
Exactly. So you will learn how to use Typescript to find
components and the properties you're expecting. It allows you to quickly and easily find errors and bugs without even leaving your editor. In this course, you'll learn how to use the editor to find the types of various different React components.
Okay, you'll learn how to use your editor to find types in your component. Okay.
Components and their properties inside of Visual Studio.
So to find types in your components inside of Visual Studio Code. All right.
Code. You'll learn how to use the context API.
Totally. You will learn how to use the context API, which is something that we need to. Totally.
React hooks, as well as type props in your React application.
Okay. You'll learn how to use the context API.
I hope you enjoy various different React components and their properties inside of Visual Studio Code. You'll learn how to use the context API, React hooks, as well as
Exactly. You're gonna learn how to use the context API, React hooks, as well as
type props in your React application.
Type props in your React application. Sounds good.
I hope you enjoy the course.
So, like right now, we have a problem.
Let's get into this. Let's get into this.
Currently live in Denver, Colorado, USA. My name is Steve. I currently live in Denver, Colorado, USA. I am from either New York City or New Jersey, depending on what's better for the story or the point I'm trying to make. I work at a company called Temporal. I run the front-end engineering team there. I also the developers tools team. So the same team working on both the UI as well as like VS Code plugins and fun stuff like that.
Temporal. Temporal.io. Open source durable execution. Building visual applications. Go business logic, not plumbing. Oh, but this is open source. Don't find development patterns, ship codes. Event-driven architecture, Saga distribution, state machine, batch processing, schedule job encrons. What in the F is this? Temporal works the way you work. In your language, Java SDK and is your application. Order manager, payment processing, infrastructure couple. What is this? Reliable, scalable, serverless, temporal in 11 regions. One of the most interesting pieces of tech I have seen in years. Temporal does the backend and infra, while React is from frontend. The surface exposed to the developer, it is a beautiful render functions to organize your backend workflow. I see. Temporal technology satisfy all the requirements out of the box and allow our developers to focus on business logic. Without temporal technology, we will spend a significant amount of time rebuilding temporal, and we will very likely done a worse job. Temporal. Okay. Actions. Active storage and support and service. How complex is your workflow? A commitment to your success. Temporal Cloud guarantees availability backed by SLA. Affordable to start. Low TCO for production. Economy of scale. Manage failure, network outage, flagging endpoints, long running process, and more, ensuring your workflow Your workflow never fail. Start with the cloud. Start with your OOS. Start your development. That's quite interesting. So he is now the CEO, the front-end architects at Temporal. Get started with Temporal. Take your first step with Temporal. What is Temporal? Introducing to Temporal platform. Estimated 2 hours, self-paced. Okay. You will explore the basic of building block of Temporal. No, but what is Temporal? Get started with Temporal. Can you explain to me what is Temporal? Temporal is a developer-first open source platform that ensures the successful execution of service and application. So, for example, Node servers, Go, Java. Okay, build your next application with Temporal with hands-on tutorial and courses. So the idea here is that allow you to now run services, ensure the successful execution of service and application. Don't you have is project-based tutorials, example applications, and courses, and home. Okay, all right. So it allows you to now deploy successful service and applications. Example applications. Background check application in Go. What is a human-driven, long-running workflow? How did check solve the problem before Temporal? This project introduced the following concept: activity, execution, to side effect, task queue, temporal client, temporal web UI, workers. What are the technical hosts to introducing this application? Okay. So it makes sure. So it makes sure that your application works as expected. All right. It makes sure that your application works as expected. Temporal. Okay. It makes sure that your service and application work as expected. Okay. But they focus on the execution. They focus on these applications or server work as expected. Work as expected. Delivers an open source durable execution system that struggles with the complexity of building scalable, reliable, and distributed software. It presents a developing abstraction that preserves complete application state so that in the case of a host or software failure, it can seamlessly migrate execution to another machine. Holy F, bro. That's quite interesting. My God. All right. So this is an execution system. Okay. Delivered an open source durable execution system. Okay, execution system that makes sure that if your applications present a deployment abstractions that preserve complete application state, so in the case of a host or software failure, it can seamlessly migrate execution to another machine. What in the F, bro? What in the F, bro? All right. Holy moly. That's pretty wild. That's also something interesting here.
That. So, today we're going to talk about React and TypeScript. So, what is going to be in this course? And what do you need to know? One, you do not necessarily need to be, it's not like I am already a TypeScript master and now I'd like to also learn how to use it with React. The expectation is that like you've played with some React, you're mostly familiar with React, and you have probably heard that TypeScript is supposed to be good, right? Type safety, that seems like a thing. And then you're probably, like my origin story with this was, I think the first time I tried to use TypeScript was like 2016, right? Less gray in my beard, more youthful exuberance. I'm like, let's try a strongly typed version of JavaScript. And that's great when you first try it out. And then like the second things get hard, you're like, or I could go back to JavaScript and just do whatever I want all the time instead of having a compiler yell at me. And so that was like the first 2 years, right? And then we were doing this big rewrite of this app in 2018. And we had already been living with this large code base. It was like one of those like layer cakes. And so it was, they had a Rails app that had CoffeeScript and jQuery, and then they put a React hat on top of that. And now we were gonna like rewrite the thing, right? And so like changing that out in place, the team was like, we should probably use TypeScript, right? That seemed like the responsible thing to do.
Exactly.
In 2018, possibly. In 2022, almost definitely. And so it starts out like this, like you do the easy mode, and then you come across some issue, and you either A, start throwing any types anywhere, or B, you start just randomly copying and pasting stuff you find from the internet. And that is, you know, I think where a lot of us live for a really long time. And so the goal of this course is kind of like, not only just go like, okay, this is what you do here, this is what you do there, but kind of two major themes, which is one, kind of understanding some of the just like philosophical underpinnings of what we're doing and why. So we'll start out kind of slow and then ramp up. And then two, the main hypothesis that I'm going to try to push on you is that a lot of times the answer is literally in your editor. I'm going to be using VS Code because I figure VS Code, Microsoft, IntelliSense, Microsoft, TypeScript, Microsoft, it all works together. I assume that a lot of these will work in other editors as well, but that is kind of my experience. And so a lot of times, actually using TypeScript in React and using a lot of the hints and just like features in your editor to kind of like have some introspection about what's going on is a lot of times the best way to figure out the path forward, right? A lot of times instead of like, all right, let me jump over into my web browser and look up the docs on TypeScript, you can actually just like hover over stuff sometimes and kind of get the answer. So if like there's one main skill that you get out of this, it is how to kind of use your actual React and TypeScript app to learn how to use TypeScript in your React app. It's like a positive feedback loop. We're going to learn TypeScript through building React components, right? And I think that if you're like, I'm into this, there are definitely some other workshops that Founding Masters has that cover like just purely TypeScript in depth, but this is kind of like learning through doing with a React application. At one point, when we start escalating up the complexity of things, we'll take a brief detour into like just enough TypeScript to keep you dangerous, right? Just kind of go back into some of the more advanced stuff, and then we will jump TypeScript to keep you dangerous, right? Just kind of go back into some of the more advanced stuff, and then we will jump like.
Okay, but first thing first.
And then you come across some issue.
First things first. Okay, so this course is laid out in the introduction, components. Okay, the component aspect. Okay, which is the component in plural. Then the APIs, components. Then the APIs. Okay, that you can have access to. Then typing and refactoring. And genetics. Okay, so typing and refactoring. Okay, and genetics. Okay, genetics. Okay, so far so good. So this introduction here is now more like a philosophical aspect of what is the reason of using here. Okay.
And you either A, start throwing any types anywhere, or B, you start just randomly copying and pasting stuff you find from the internet. And that is, you know, I think where a lot of us live for a really long time. And so the goal of this course is kind of like, not only just go like, okay, this is what you do here, this is what you do there, but kind of two major themes, which is one, kind of understand.
Okay. So the goal of this course is to cover two major things. Okay. First is the philosophical aspect of TypeScript, which is something that I'm quite familiar with, and that is that it describes the intent of the code. It describes the intent that you have when you wrote this code. Okay. So other developers can see that, understand your intent, and from there extend the applications or add new features, extend the features of the application, augment your applications on that. And there is something wrong, they can now trace back thanks to the compiler, the TypeScript compiler, as a way to say, hey, we got something wrong. And here is this.
Really just like philosophical underpinnings of what we're doing and why. So we'll start out.
Okay, the goal of this course is to major thing. One, the philosophical aspect, philosophical aspect of why we using TypeScript, okay, which is something that I quite fairly know.
Kind of slow and then ramp up. And then two, the main hypothesis that I'm going to try to push on you is that a lot of times the answer is literally in your editor. I'm going to be using VS.
So the answer is literally in
code, because main hypothesis that I'm going to try to push on you is that a lot of times the answer is literally in your editor.
Exactly, in your editor. Okay, but again, as you get familiar with this and as you put up practice on how you can make use of React and TypeScript, it'll make more sense and you are going to less fight the TypeScript as it is.
I'm going to be using VS Code because I figure VS Code, Microsoft, IntelliSense, Microsoft, TypeScript, Microsoft, it all works together. I assume that a lot of these will work in other editors as well, but that is kind of my experience.
Except with your editor, which is Visual Studio Code. Yep.
So a lot of times, actually using TypeScript in React and using a lot of the hints and just like features in your editor to kind of like have some introspection about what's going on is a lot of times the best way to figure out the path forward. And using a lot of the hints and just like features in your editor to kind of like have some introspection about what's going on is a lot of times the best way to figure out the path forward, right? A lot of times instead of like...
Okay. So by figuring out or yeah, by doing introspection. Oh, you know what? Let me actually is. All right. There you got it. So by doing introspection, okay. So by doing introspections, okay. So by doing co-introspections here.
All right, let me jump over into my web browser and look up the docs on type introspection about what's going on is a lot of times the best way to figure out the path forward.
Exactly. So by doing co-introspections is sometimes the best, and I think, okay, this is the value proposition here. You know, value proposition here. This is it. This is the value proposition here. So by doing co-introspection is sometimes the best way to find out the path.
Right, seeing a lot of the hints and just like features in your editor to kind of like have some introspection about what's going on.
Exactly. So by following, exactly, by following the hint, and exactly, so by following the hint in your text, in your co-editor, and I think this is where the value proposition is. So by following the hints in your co-editors and doing co-introspections is sometimes the best way to find out.
Is a lot of times the best way to figure out the path forward.
Exactly. Or is a lot of time the best way to path forward. That's quite interesting.
To figure out the path forward.
Okay, it's a lot of time the best way to figure it out the path for. Interesting. But there is something a lot of here that he mentioned, especially in Typescript, okay? Because Brian Hall described about the Typescript that when we look at how can we now transform our type or React components or JSX into Typescript, a lot of the times it was a quick introduction back in that course. So, which is of the intermediate, no, React, what about now? Oh, interesting, okay, no problem. Let me take a look at this, and React intermediate, complete intermediate React version 5. We're here in this particular course, we went over to say, all right, so what are the things that we need to write React production grade React applications, and that is, well, look at the techniques and tools that allow us to do that. Tools like, first thing first, look at the advanced hooks, okay? Hooks like useRef, advanced hooks like useRef, use callbacks, use memo, use layout, and use ID, as well as use reducer, okay? Or this kind of hooks, right? So all of this, and what are those particular solutions solve? Because at the end of the day, all of them are to solve Facebook problems. And the vast majority of us, we don't deal with Facebook problems. So this is just the tool that we look here first, as well as Tailwind, what Tailwind is. Then we look at the advanced techniques like, all right, how now the server-side rendering or the code splitting works. What is the end goal? What is the value proposition of the code splitting as a way to minimize is the initial bundle that contains the minimal code to teach your app how to start, and then while showing something in the user, and then in the background load everything you need to provide interactivity. And how can we achieve that? By using the lazy component or the lazy function from React. And how when we combine that with other techniques like when we combine with other technique like so when we combine with other techniques, for example, like the server-side rendering, where the end goal is to say, all right, let's gonna make the initial request that our user does is rendering all of this content statically and rendering all this content on the server, send that over the cable, rendered on the user so it can see something. Well, in the meantime, we are now is loading the applications behind the scenes. So we have now client-side rendering, which is usually server single-page applications, and the server-side rendering. Now what it does is let's gonna make the first initial request get rendered on the server. So now it send over the cable the full content of our website. So now web crawlers can index it, and we have a great SEO for that. All right. So that's actually the end goal of all of these advanced techniques in React. It's like you have now is the code splitting, which is a techniques that we mentioned, as well as the server-side rendering, and how can we accomplish that server-side rendering technique. And then we look at other tools that we can use as a way to write these production grade React applications, such as Typescript is one of them. And here we don't dive deep too much in Typescript because that's not part of the end goal of this. We also look at some low priority re-rendering components, just to mention that they exist, okay? Like use defer value or use transition. But we went over here to Typescript just as I briefly explained that what are the things that you need to set up with Typescript, all right, by installing is the compiler and how the compiler is made of, not only with the Typescript, the compiler, but also you need to install some types as a way to know the shape of all of this library that you're importing. There's a very helpful library that allows you to actually fetch a type definition of these JavaScript libraries as a way to know its interface and the shape of that data. Okay, but here we talk only is briefly on what is the value proposition of Typescript, which is allow you to define is the intent that you have when you wrote this code, so others can look at that and understand what is the data flow. Okay, whereas look at how can we set our Typescript compiler as a way to say, okay, this is the things, this is now is the configuration that it requires, a way to look at that. And that configuration is like this. But actually we don't dive deep too much in how can we now write our components. We just focus on the high level perspective here. We just mentioned is that as a way to migrate your GSX to TSX, right? Is something that is important. You will now find most of the time when you do this, from 10 to 60%, it'll be misery. We're talking about most likely of the Brian Hall experience, as well as the more you, the less you find your compiler, the better off will be. And the more you do this, the better off again will be for you. And also we look at briefly how can we now is migrating our GSX to Typescript components. But again, we didn't work with, for example, React components as a way to migrate them, okay, or as a way to understand what is the value proposition of using Typescript on React, and how can we use that with context. And that's exactly what we're gonna see today, or in this series of videos. It's like, all right, we're gonna see now how, okay, React and Typescript make easy to type your components. Make sure you got the proper, make sure you have the property that you expected, and easily debug your app without leaving the code editor. And the specific things that we're going to learn here is that learn how to use your code editor to find types in components inside your Visual Studio, okay, and learn how to use the context API, something that we didn't use with React, okay, and also the contexts are part of the core of the React. When you take a look now at the intro, we take a look now at the intro here. You're not gonna help me here? Okay, no problem. We took a look at the intro here, complete intro to React, where here, which is a course taught by Brian Hall, where he described now is first the value proposition of React, which is rendering components, that's all, as well as the setup and tooling. Okay, so what are the things that you need to get started with React? Like, all right, Anyway, okay. So for example, like setting up the prettier, setting up the ESLint, setting up the Typescript if you're going to work with. And now the thing is the React core concept like hooks. The React core concept like GSX hooks, use effect, which is something that we're going to see now, but we're working with the Typescript. Okay, so GSX or TSX hooks, use effects, custom hooks, all right, and then styling, component compositions in the React DevTools, and then we look at the React capabilities like React browser, React query, and the special case of React, such as context, error boundaries, and models or portals. And this is something important because now that's exactly what we're gonna see in this course, and I'm really excited about it. Totally. So this course is laid out in the introduction, components, API, typings, and refactoring in genetics. First things first, we're looking at the introduction as a way to understand two major things: the philosophical aspect of why we use Typescript, as well as that the answer is literally in your editor, right? So the value proposition here of this course is that, so by following is the hint in your code editor and doing code introspection, which is something that when you use now AI tools like GitHub Copilot or any other models that allow you to do this, that allow you to check this hint, and that allow you to check this hint and do some code introspection as a way to now make it easy for you. I think this is where the value proposition kicks in. Totally. I think this is where the value proposition kicks in. Yep. Totally. All right. So this is the value proposition, especially of us looking at the React and Typescript, where now by following is the hint in your text, by following is the hints in your code editor and doing some code introspections, a lot of the time that's the best way to figuring out the path for. Oh, right, my friend.
Right, a lot of times instead of like, all right, let me jump over into my web browser and look up the docs on TypeScript, you can actually just like hover over stuff sometimes.
Okay. Exactly. So instead of jumping to the browser to see what's going on, you can just only check is you can just only check is the you can just only check so instead of jumping to the browser to see what's going on, you can just only check, all right, that in your editor. There you got it.
And kind of get the answer. So if like there's one main skill that you get out of this, it is how to kind of use your actual React and TypeScript app to learn how to use TypeScript in your React app. It's like a positive feedback loop. We're going to learn TypeScript through building React components, right? And I think that if you're like, I'm into this, there are definitely some other
So we are going to learn TypeScript in React as we build. The best way to learn something. The best way to learn something by doing, period. This is how I learn all of this stuff, bro. Exposure and do it.
Workshops that Funny Masters has that cover like just purely TypeScript in depth, but this is kind of like learning through doing with a React application.
Exactly. Learning through doing. Exactly.
One point, when we start escalating up the complexity of things, we'll take a brief detour into like just enough TypeScript to keep you dangerous, right? Just to kind of go back into some of the more advanced stuff, and then we will jump into some more complicated patterns.
Okay. So we will learn. Enough. Yeah, we'll learn enough to keep you dangerous, and then some advanced patterns. All right. Cool.
In React, a lot of the stuff in React in particular, which is a lot of executed at runtime. You could have stuff like prop types, and we'll see that. We'll convert some stuff from prop types in the very beginning, where it's like, oh, it'll log to your console only in development, and that's great if like for the actual view you're looking at. But like prop types, we'll see that. We'll convert some stuff from prop types in the very
Exactly. Type checking at compile time is a way better than things crashing or worse. Ah, of course, exactly. A brief sales pitch. Why use TypeScript? I think this is important to say. Why use TypeScript? All right, so why use TypeScript? Exactly, so why use TypeScript? A brief sales pitch. I love it. A brief sales pitch. Okay, what is your sales pitch? Oh my God. Tu discurso de ventas. ¿Cuál es? Tírame el discurso de venta. Okay. So type checking at compile time is way better than things crashing or worse, behaving unexpectedly at runtime. Yeah, it's like crashing things at build time is way much better than getting unexpected behavior or crash behavior or crash at runtime. Oh my God, yeah, it is.
beginning, where it's like, oh, it'll log to your console only in development, and that's great if like for the actual view you're looking at. But a lot of times, like if you have a large enough code base, somewhere off in the distance, you might have broken something, right? And yes, in a perfect world, you have amazing tests, everything is great. But it'd be really great if in your editor immediately you saw a little red squiggly line that told you, and you could just fix it right then and there. You think about, unless you're better than me, the number of mistakes you make a day. If you can cut it from having to jump over and look at the console to just seeing it immediately, that's, you become a 10x developer. No. Also, the number of mistakes you make a day. If you can cut it from having to jump over and look at the console to just seeing it immediately, that's, you become a 10x developer. No. Also, more important to me is autocomplete.
Oh, that's right, man. Oh my God, yeah. Totally. So crashing things at build time is way much better than getting unexpected behavior or crashing at runtime. Why is that? Since we are working in a team, so usually things can to prevent someone that actually make a mistake by being lazy or too tired or just to be human. Being lazy, be too tired, or just being human. All right. That's one way. That's great. That's a great way to prevent it. Okay. So yeah. So since we're working in a team, to prevent someone from actually making so to prevent someone from actually yeah, to prevent someone from actually making a mistake by by being lazy, too tired, or being human. It is a great way to prevent that. And that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Is the idea.
Exactly. Autocomplete. You get a better developer experience.
Idea that I will immediately start typing and it will tell me the rest of the answer, because I have lost afternoons, maybe full days, to like misspelling an action type in a Redux or use reducer, or something along those lines. There's literally like midway through the course, there is an issue where I was like writing the solution to an exercise.
Exactly. The autocomplete, that's right. So sometimes you might, for example, mistype a mistype a reducer.
There's literally like midway through the course, there is reducer, or something like misspelling an action type in a Redux or use.
Exactly, it's misspelling or mistyping. For example, misspelling a reducer action. You may, for example, misspell a reducer action.
Reducer, or something along those lines. There's literally like midway through the course, there is an issue where I was like writing the solution to an exercise and I made a stupid typo. I was doing it in like without the types first to then show you. I was like, if I just had TypeScript this entire time, this wouldn't have happened to me. So we'll kind of look at that as well. And then, having worked on some very large code bases, it is nice, like I said before. So
exactly. And the other is large code bases stay more maintainable. So large code bases stay maintainable. Totally. Maintainable. Jesus, how do you write that? Maintainable. That's right. Large code bases stay maintainable because you are able to put a guardrails on how your code can be used. Guardrails. Large codes stay maintainable because you can put a lot of guardrails. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. Guardrails. Guardrails. All right. Interesting. Guardrails. Barandas. Oh my God. Okay, that's cool. Exactly. On how your code, exactly, and how your code
something changes somewhere else,
can be used.
Having a lightning fast compiler to just find all these little things, all these edge cases, definitely make life easier and make it so that you do not get paged and not like getting paged. Right, so that I wanted to pay some of the extra tax in the ceremony around setting up types and some of those extra things. A lot of the times, another theme is that TypeScript tries its hardest to stay out of your way. And only kind of like steps in and sometimes feels a little bit pedantic when your code is actually like less clear than you think it is. And so I think we've actually seen this throughout like even third-party libraries, like a lot of code learning through doing with a React application. Like even third-party libraries, like a lot of code, now that TypeScript is like just purely TypeScript in depth, but this is kind of like learning through doing with a React application. At one point, when we start escalating magic a lot of times, right? So it kind of, in a lot of ways, forces you to write simpler code and be a little less fancy. And I think that over time contributes to the quality of your code base. So with that, let's get into it. One of the things we have available for us is this fun little website. It has basically everything I'm going to say today, and probably more, as well as all of the different repos that we're going to use. So if you want to get ahead of the curve and clone and run it.
Okay, so now this is the resource here, the website here. This is now the website. 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 A course website. Exactly. So it's like course website.
npm install now. That's totally fine. You don't really have to. For some of the smaller ones, I'll put up some sandboxes.
All right. All right. Introduction, repository and sandboxes. Fundamentals, the very basics. Component children and typing hooks. Type uses stay hooks. Setting a state without a default value, state of event, an exercise, set an event solution, passing set state, TypeScript unions in React, working with reducer, typing reducers, passing dispatch. Okay, working with reducer. Okay, let me actually now show you what I'm actually doing here. Exactly. Inversal. Well, I'm not surprised. And I think this is statically. It's an static server, exactly. Using next, blah blah blah. They deploy that. They haven't updated that because they say, why in the F I'm gonna update this? Good luck. It's like, ain't gonna happen. Good luck. Prints. It's an extensible syntax highlighter. And syntax highlighter. Okay. Syntax highlighter. Syntax highlighter. Okay. Supported language. Interesting. All right. Good. All right. Course website here. Building a TypeScript library. Oh, Jesus. Converting an application to TypeScript. Runtime package and test type guard. All right. Anyway, move on.
Stuff along those lines. But generally speaking, you can kind of follow along with me as I'm going through stuff and kind of see some stuff together. So some of the big updates between version 1 and version 2 is like React 18, right? And with React 18, there was a bunch of like changes to some of the types. So for instance, like in React 17, we're not there yet. We'll point it out when we get there. You could just use like React.functional component. It would like assume that you support children, all those things, and like that doesn't work anymore in React 18. So there's like lots of little things that are somewhat different between 17 and 18. There's a number of like kind of new like helper utilities, and just generally speaking, like I think one of the things if I compare even like 2016 TypeScript to 2018 to 2022, like every release stuff gets a little bit more powerful and a little bit easier. So like in a lot of ways there's like both a few things that you can't do anymore because they're no longer supported, and at the same time like a lot less ceremony and work, and the helpfulness in the editor increases more and more. So like even in V1 I was like same time like a lot less, it's a little bit more powerful and a little bit easier. So like in a lot of ways there's like both a few things that you can't do anymore because they're no longer supported, and at the same time like a lot less ceremony and work, and the helpfulness in the editor increases more and more. So like
Well, in theory, right? In theory. This is in theory. Of course, this is in theory. Your sales page on React,
like
TypeScript.
new like helper utilities, and just generally speaking, like I think one of the things, if I compare even like 2016 TypeScript to 2018 to 2022, like every release, stuff gets a little bit more powerful and a little bit easier. So I think one of the things, if I compare even like 2016 TypeScript to 2018 to 2022, like every release, stuff gets a little bit more powerful and a little bit easier. So like in a lot of ways, there's like
Okay, in TypeScript. Okay, TypeScript release. Okay, okay. In TypeScript, with any release, things can sometimes some things are dropped. Some things are dropped in favor of new features that require a lot of less ceremony. That require a lot of less ceremony and increase the robustness of the language.
both a few things that you can't do anymore because they're no longer supported, and at the same time, like a lot less ceremony and work. And
Exactly, a lot of less ceremony and work.
and the helpfulness in the editor increases more and more. So
And the helpfulness in the editor increases. Exactly, the helpfulness in the editor increases more and more. That's quite interesting.
like even in V1, I was like, yo, you should use the editor to like figure out the right thing. And that was like a mostly good approach. And I would say that like these days that it becomes a really good approach. I think doubling down on that skill is incredibly useful. TypeScript component. All right, so this is
All right. I think that's what's quite interesting. Because this now describing is from the Steve Kinney perspective, is that what is the value proposition of React and TypeScript? So by looking at not only that it make it easy to type your components, but make it easy to type your components and make sure you have the properties that you expect and easily debug your app without leaving the text editors. It's also helpful because the goal of this course is like learn how to use TypeScript in your editor without leaving it. One, by actually looking is at the hints of the editor and by looking at the hints in the editor and doing some co-introspections that will lead you your path forward. So where you can now lead to the. So by looking at the hints, by looking at the code editor hints, and do some code introspections, it will help you to guide you through the path to solve that problem. And I think, yeah. So a lot of the time is the best way to figuring out the path for. That's the value proposition of this. And if you use that in combo with, and when you use that in combo with tools like, and when you use that with totally, and when you use that with tools like AI, like code editors or GitHub Compiler or Cursor or any of these tools that allow you to speed up things, then now you'll make yourself in a better position, especially when you need to solve those problems. Which means that you're gonna earn much more time that is valuable, like any software engineer knows, computer science or front-end engineering knows that time is the most important asset that you have. So then you can dedicate your time to the other stuff or the things that are relevant and that kind of thing. Oh my God. But okay. This is now the value proposition of the React in TypeScript. And I think I really need to dive deep into this because so far my experience has been extensively is with Vue. There is nothing wrong with Vue, all right? Unfortunately, there is not actually to market in Vue, especially in the place where I am. Perhaps for those companies that are now innovating or that have enough VC funding, they can get all of this, which is great. So they can now have dedicated ID or research R&D to build specific feature with this technology, which is great. But in this case, a lot of these companies, most of the time, they're going to use something that already exists and that is in demand, and that is React with TypeScript. So, okay, why am I doing this? As a way to improve my technical communication skills, which are tremendous, are important, it's a way of how now you can empowering a team to kind of guide you. What do we need to do to complete this particular task, to build this feature? And I think that is something that I resonate vastly with instructors like Brian Holt, as well as Scott Moss, and Will Sentence in that regard, because it's like, this is for real. So being able to describe what you have done, no matter how fast you do that, actually will bring value to yourself as well as the company. And that's quite that's that I think this is something beautiful as well. I think that's something beautiful. So let's get into this. So great, good. So now that we know is the speech here, the self speech of why TypeScript is that it is better to have errors at build times rather than at run times, or that you get something unexpected or crashing your app at run times. So since we are working in teams, and perhaps some of us are too lazy, we wake up too lazy or too tired, or we're just being human. So in order to prevent that, now it is much better to create or throw errors or crashing your app at build times. And the other is, which is the thing that I really like the most, is auto completion, which improves the developer experience. Sometimes that you, for example, are misspelling an action in a reducer, that actually is very helpful completely. And the other is that enables large code bases to be more sustainable and maintainable by putting all of these guardrails on how you should code how your code should be used. Completely, man. Totally. All right, this is the course website where actually you're gonna see all of this. In fact, we can also put this right below this. Yep, say course website here, right below our resource. And the other is repositories, name badge, typing children, accident counter, what the heck? Inspiration quotes, scholar theory, packing, sandboxes, name badge migrating from prop types, exercise, type children's. Okay. Listed in somewhat chronological order. Name badge. Okay, but
Is a TypeScript component.
okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Interesting. And now this is the sandboxes. All right. So sandboxes. Yep. No. Chill, bro. Sandboxes. All right. There you got it. All right, sandboxes. Cool. All right. No. Okay. All right. All right. Let's get into it.
And my challenge for you is to try to delineate what uniquely makes it a TypeScript component.
Let's gotta take a look at this. But I don't think he has that director emeritus as Turing School. Turing School. What is Turing School? Turing School. Touch career star here. Get yourself software engineer at Turing. Oh, that's another bootcamp. Okay. Software engineering at Turing. What you will learn. Careers make us different. Okay. Academics. Terminal Turing.edu. Post a job, browse portfolio, request a list, or curriculum. More about us or blogs, outcomes. Post jobs. Okay. Oh, but this is okay. Alumni portfolio, post job. Alumni portfolio. Oh, what in the F is this? Holy moly. That's my company. God damn. Yeah, damn. Oh, nigga. Daddy Merle. Software engineer intern. And freelancer web developers, and then, but eliminating language barrier for refugees and humanitarian with the world's largest community of translator. Okay. Interesting. That's interesting. Okay. That's great. That's holy moly. All right. Holy moly, I'm competing a lot. God damn, son. Wow. Ruby and Rail, exactly. End user support specialist. Exactly. Oh my god. Oh my god. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Uh-huh. Jesus. Holy moly. All right. All right. Okay. Whew. Holy moly, bro. Anyway. Jesus. Oh, nigga. Oh, nigga. Because it's all about, oh my god, it's all about the market. Oh, nigga. No, it's all about the market, bro. Mm-hmm. It's the market, man. It's the market, man. The market, bro. Oh my god. Oh, nigga. Damn. So. Holy moly. Holy moly. Ooh. Dang. All right. Okay. Oh, holy moly. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Exactly. It's Ruby and Rail and Active Record and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Oh shit. Anyway, anyway, anyway. Okay. More than ever. More than ever. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. 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 Oh. Oh. Um. Well, this is now the React and TypeScript VS. Okay. So let's now open up or create a here. There is the React and TypeScript, React, and React, React TypeScript course. Yep. React TypeScript. Okay. See the React TypeScript here. And then now it's going to is clone this. For example, first let me actually get into the code. Okay, open up this. Glad that you do that. No problem. All right. And what the? And okay, get status here of all of this. But no, but it's because it must be here. Say git status, bro. Really? See the front-end master. React DS Go base. List. Exactly, React Typescript, but this is React TS. React TS code test. Oh, of course. If I would say git add everything, say git status here. All right, and we are going is to git push origin main. So pushing this change, it say hey git pull origin main. And that's right. So git status. There it is. Git commit with a message. Yep. Which is the OOP, object creation in JavaScript. Exactly. Object creation in JavaScript. So git push now origin to main branch. Right now you're not able to see what I'm doing, but essentially here is just now creating, see the React Typescript. Come on. Oh, interesting. React Typescript, okay. And here we're going to do is this. Open up this here. You already opened that. Okay. And now let's going to create a readme here. So readme file, readme.md. Okay. React course like this. Yep, React and TypeScript course from frontend master. Okay, that's right. And with this, okay. Like this. All right. And just as a way to look at how was the format we use with the hard parts, and async here. Let me open up here. We go. That's a way to actually mimic this behavior. Okay. So this is course personal notes and recording learning process. Something that we don't have that right now. Pending to do. All right. But we get is the personal notes. Just here. Which is here as it is. All right. Cool. And okay. You got it. All right. Now this is it. All right. Goal, specific goal. What skills our company are looking for? As a way to recap the end goal of all of this. Core structure, introductions, components, and la. And there you got it. Okay. So, yes. And now let me actually clone is the first repo, which is name batches. Right? So name batches here. As it is, as I git clone this. Bam, we got that. There you got it. Name batches. All right. Update this. Oh. Oh shit! I bring that to the wrong place. Removing a recursive for way the name batches. Because in fact, no, it's this one exactly. But I need is to go to the proper repo, which is React Typescript, and now actually clone that. So we can see that the name batch. There you got it. Name batches. Good. Good.
Yeah. TypeScript component. All right, so this is a TypeScript component. And my challenge for you is to try to delineate what uniquely makes it a TypeScript component.
All right. Name batch. So let's get into this. Let's get into this. Components. That's right. So components. Okay. Oh my god. Yeah, components. You got it. Components. Okay. So Steam begin refactoring a React component to use TypeScript. The file extension is renamed to TSX. As type are added to the components, the editor will display error where type conflicts occur. Error can also be displayed in the terminal. So that's briefly what's going on. Steve begin refactoring a React component to use TypeScript. Steve begins. Come on. So Steve begins to refactor a React components into TypeScript. Okay. The file extension is renamed to TSX.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. If I change the file extension
on
this file, it would go from
file
a TSX
name
to a
extension.
and we go from TypeScript to JavaScript.
To
and this is
TSX.
Again one of the main points that I want to double down on, which is TypeScript tries its hardest to stay out of your way, right? It just tries to be helpful. If you find yourself out of the box doing a ton of typing, that's probably an anti-pattern, right? Because TypeScript is going to do everything in its power to figure stuff out. So even in this, if we hover over name badge. You see that one? All right. It knows that this is a function that takes no arguments and returns a JSX element. Right? And so if I tried to use some other function in JSX, it wouldn't work because it knows it's not returning a JSX element. It knows that this is a valid React component that's a function. Right? It just figured that all out on its own.
If you find yourself, this is true. If you find yourself defining a lot of types, might be an anti-pattern. Exactly, might be an anti-pattern, and they struggle is with patterns and that kind of thing. Because things to inherit, thanks to type inheritance, or types inference, which is something that we're going to take a look now at the Typescript here. Okay. There you got it. All right, cool. That's it. Now I want to take a look at the handbooks here as a way to make myself familiar with this handbook. Okay, digital version. Okay, so there's some content here that they discuss. For example, like the basics, which is static type checking, knob exception failures, type for tooling, TSX, the Typescript compiler, emitting with errors, explicit types, erasing types, down leveling. Don't label it. Strictness, no implicit any. That's a rule that you can define in the Typescript compiler. It's like, hey, no implicit any. And then you got strict null checks. All right, but again, the point of looking at this is that types for tooling, the point of this is to look at on the getting started rules. The point of this is the reference, model reference, tutorials. Okay, what's next? They are now in 5.5 version. Holy moly. Declaration files, JavaScript, type checking, JavaScript projects utilizing Typescript. No, the entire reason of looking at this handbook is type by inference. Typescript for Java and C programmers. Go learn in JavaScript. Rethinking the class. C and Java are what we might call mandatory OOP language. In this language, the class is the basic unit of code. Free functions and data. OOP in Typescript and rethinking types. Nominal refined type system. But since you come from Typescript for functional programmers, concept not in Haskell. Built-in types. Oh, if you come from Haskell. JavaScript, the good parts. I think this is a book that they have there. Yeah, JavaScript, the good parts here. Released in 2008. Oh my god. Alright. More JavaScript for the impatience. Okay. More JavaScript for the impatience. In 2008. Anyway. So JavaScript for Typescript is like types by inference. That's the reason of using now Typescript, especially if you find yourself writing too much type. Because thanks to the type inference, types by inference, okay, because thanks to the type by inference, okay,
even if I hover over any of these elements, I kind of get the types, and yeah, they look like a bit much, but if you squint, you can mostly figure out what's going on as I hover over that like section, right? It's an HTML element, right? Cool. Of the section type, so on and so forth. Class names, you can see they can be a string or undefined. You can mostly try to like use the inspiration of what the typing in React has already done for you to kind of like figure out what something should be.
Yep. So if you take a look now at the code aspect here, and the name here, Under the source, under the components, the application, the name badge is pretty much this. So follow me along here with the Go instance, which is all right. I think you can see right now. There you got it. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So you can see here exactly. So Typescript is now yelling at us. You say cannot find React.js runtime or its corresponding declaration. Let's now open up inside of that. All right. As a way to now look at the proper. Ooh, what the hell is this? As a way to look at the proper. Those windows here. Okay, as a way to look at the proper project here. There you got it. All right. And okay. Now, when you take a look at this, not the index, in fact, is the application here, which is the name badge. It's actually complaining here. It's like cannot find model React GSX runtime or its corresponding type declaration. So let's go to install that. All right. So now the compiler can take a look at that. Is it? It's like now it can find that. So our Visual Studio Code that actually have the Typescript compiler here in the tag that is say, okay, good. We have now everything that we need to. Okay, it's actually got all of these tailwinds, nice little convention here. So if you hovering all of these elements, it tells you, hey, this is the wrapper of React HTML attribute. Similar to this. Hey, this is not a HTML section. In fact, this is this. Okay. So this section is actually part of the GSS intrinsic element dot section. That is a React detail HTML props for that. So similar to the name, you know, hey, this is not a GS element, a React component.
Now, that said, this is, not only is this both a TypeScript as well as a JavaScript component, I guess technically if it wasn't for class name and it was just class, it would also be like almost HTML, right? So like to say like, oh, they're almost the same is a little disingenuous because we haven't really done anything with this yet. So there are obviously like usually some kind of React component either takes some kind of state or props, right? That's a thing. Otherwise you would just hand graft HTML. And that is the case here as well. So for instance, we could throw in a prop, put a name for instance, and you can see that TypeScript's starting to get a little angry. That's good. We need an angry. So I have strict mode turned on for the entirety of this workshop. And if you're migrating your code base.
So if you're starting to adding is, for example, property here, like name. Okay. And then you say on the batch name. Wait, what? What is the batch name? On the batch name, you see is now the name. So you can see now it started to yell at you and say, hey, binding elements name implicit has any type. We don't allow it to do that. That's what it is. Like name implicit has any type. So we don't allow that. And this is because at the configuration in React, we're saying, hey, we shouldn't do that. We say strict true. That's what we're saying here. All right.
You might still choose to use strict mode. You might choose not to, but like for the purposes, especially of us learning, like having all the rules in place makes sense. And so the first thing is that name has, implicitly an any type. It has an any type. Any is like, I don't know, YOLO, right? And what it's saying is like, can you tell me what name is supposed to be so I make sure it has all the methods? And if you look right now with name, if I put a dot after it, I get nothing. However, I can say, okay, like here are the prop types. And like a lot of times in regular JavaScript, you don't have to use that library called prop types, but you can to have like React check to make sure like, hey, you said name was supposed to be a string. Is this a string? Because like most of us have encountered what was previously known as like undefined is not a function, or you call an array method on null, or something along those lines. Most of the errors in our application are type errors, right? And so having something to run and check, but TypeScript was able to figure out the return value of this, but it doesn't know what is eventually going to get passed in just by reading the code now. That's something that happens in practice. So whatever TypeScript can figure out for you, it does. You don't have to worry about it. However, anything that TypeScript can't figure out, you got to be a friend. You got to help out, right? So we basically just say, all right, cool. It's an object and name is a string. And now TypeScript is happy again. You can see the application TSX is immediately upset with me, right? Good. Like it ought to be upset with me. I told it that the name badge takes name, and I can give it the name if you want.
So this is how user define is a type.
And now, I didn't even need to save for all those errors to happen. As I typed, all this checking was going on. I don't have to like flip back to my browser, see it crash, go, oh, look at the console log, get yelled at, or sometimes like in development mode in React, it'll show it to you. Like, but I don't have to do that. I can instantly see tabs are changing colors. If I have like the sidebar open, stuff would change colors there as well. It becomes really easy like once you get used to just kind of following the flow, right? Especially if you're doing a refactor, which is sometimes perilous, especially if you don't have great unit tests. Of course you have great unit tests. Everyone has great unit tests, right? Having something immediately telling you the first time that you're using TypeScript and you get all the red squigglies go away and then you flip over your browser and your like big refactor just works. All pays off. All right, so if this looks confusing to you at all, like in TypeScript, a simpler version would be like, it's just the type of that argument, right? And so you can see this takes a number, returns a number. I can specify that it returns a number as well. I don't need to. I do this actually a lot though in a lot of my helper functions because sometimes I accidentally don't have a conditional or something along those lines. So sometimes I'll be like, don't ever return undefined or void in this case. Like make sure I get a number out of this. I will sometimes type the return argument to keep myself honest. But if you don't, TypeScript will just look at the function and figure it out. So this kind of like set of curly braces over here is the same as doing like changing this just to props. Here as well, right? Everything, it's the same idea, just regular TypeScript for a function, and everything works as expected. The other cool part is now that it knows it's a string, the only methods that show up here are string methods. Right, so immediately, not only am I getting the safety and like all the checking in my very complicated app, as you can see, but on top of that, like my life is now more convenient. Because there's like, I've been doing this now for a really long time. There's a few like methods that I will still never remember, like which one's which, right? Unshift versus like push and shift, pop, like pop and push I got, unshift and shift like never, right? And so like remembering all of those and like even some of the new ones that are all like which strings have includes versus contains, I'll never remember which one's on which. And the nice part is because I'm in TypeScript, I don't ever have to learn. Right, because my editor and my compiler will just tell me. I think this is what, when I started writing Ruby and JavaScript, and people coming from like real programming languages, would say like, oh, like strongly typed languages are better. I think I now know what they mean, like a decade later.
Yeah.
So we have all this.
A decade later. I know what you mean, especially a decade later. Hello, JavaScript. It's like, no, strongly typed are much better and more robust when you want to write applications. It's like, yeah, you're right. Look at me, look at me. Damn right. You were right 10 years ago.
And that's pretty great. Now, to be clear, this works like because this is a pretty standard function, right? If I did something like, if you look at this function now, well, it's like, well, this could return a JS element or null, right? And like, if that's what you want, that's great, because now TypeScript will like know that this function, depending on how we call it, can turn one or the other, right? If, however, you are writing something for the first time, I will do this a lot, which is I will say, no. Like, make sure I return a JSX element, at which point it's like, hey, there is some condition here where you don't, right? And for me, this saves, how many unit tests have you ever written, which are just like, okay, this function is supposed to take a string, but like, what happens if I pass an undefined? What happens if a number comes in? Like, there's so many unit tests that we write, and so one of many other like things I'm going to try to pitch to you over our time together is sometimes, yes, this is a little more work than just plain fast and loose with JavaScript, but oftentimes the number of unit tests that you save yourself that you totally were going to write, or bugs in production really, are cut down drastically, right? And you're like, I do these things all the time, just think of your least favorite thing. Cool, so we have that all in place. So what we can do now is figure out like, what does it mean to like navigate from like these props and stuff along those lines? Like there were other ways to do this, right? There were prop types. We look at over here at this control panel, which we're not really using, but it makes one. This is a JavaScript file, JSX. And two things to point out is I could import this file just fine. So if you're worried about migrating React app from JavaScript to TypeScript, like once you have the basic TypeScript set up, there's a property in the tsconfig called allow.js. Does anyone want to venture a wild guess what that does? Yeah. There's a property in the tsconfig called allow.js.
Exactly. Exactly.
Does anyone want to venture a wild guess what that does? Yeah.
Allow.js.
And so one of the things that we could do, one thing I'm going to have you do, is kind of, we're going to try to transition this file from JavaScript to TypeScript. So two major things. One is that you have prop types already kind of set up. It's fairly easy to do. Two is that we know that JavaScript and TypeScript can live. It's a little trickier when the TypeScript file is imported into JavaScript file, to be totally honest, because like everything is an any type, but it's kind of like you're just working with JavaScript. It can integrate nicely, and then two, converting is fairly easy. Mark. Yeah. I am using Create React App because I feel like it's a common denominator. Yeah, I will show you just kind of the basic ones that I use. Okay, so this is, you know, I can't remember if this is one that comes with Create React App or like I actually just made my own template for some of these. This one I don't normally keep on if you're starting a new project, which is allow.js, because if I'm starting fresh, I don't need to like create a future migration problem for myself. But this is, you know, most of these are kind of standard, right? Sometimes you might want to target like a later version of the ES5 is pretty safe. Yeah, obviously we're using JSX. Let's see what else is kind of unique and important. These are mostly standard. I almost always keep strict mode on because when I don't, and I decide to turn it on later, I then have to make things in strict mode. So some of these, I think these are very like safe defaults. This one up here lets you just import React instead of a star from React, which you might see in some TypeScript blog posts. So like, yeah, if it doesn't have a default export, you can just pick this out. These are kind of most of the cases. Like this is nice too, which is like if you have a case statement and you exhaust all the different options, right? You can do the default thing. It will like figure all that out for you. Again, like stuff like strict mode, I might turn off on migrating app, right? Allow.js, I might turn on migrating app. But like generally speaking, this is some of these. Yeah, so like depending on your setup, so if you're using Byte or like a modern version of Webpack and you have the server running, like you will see them, right? I just could see them in the editor, so I didn't. But like for instance, let's take this out. And now the editor knows immediately that I have a problem. So you'll notice that like I didn't see the error immediately in my web server because I didn't save all those files. So the web server knows when you save the file, your editor knows immediately, which is also kind of nice during a refactor, right? Like that it'll still be up and running, and I can like solve all the red squigglies and then go take a look. But you will see it in your terminal as well across your entire app, not just the file that you're looking at.
Pretty much is like, okay. Pretty much is like, it's okay. It's like pretty much this. Okay. So, this is an example of how you can set types, literals, in your props. Okay, in your props. So for example, like this. There you got it. And one of the beautiful thing of this is that allow you to auto complete in your editor. So far, so good, right? So for example, if I actually do something like this and say dot here, and I want to actually take a screenshot of this, well, we're not able to see that, as you can see. me actually put it more like compact here. You may wonder, it's like, yeah, duh. Did you know about that? But if you're new to that, or as a way to, again, to put up practice my technical skills to be more precise when I have to explain something, all right, this is it, you know. Oh, no, this is not. In fact, is this one. In fact, is this one. And you can now configure, you can now configure your Typescript compiler. Exactly. And now you can configure your Typescript compiler with okay. Yeah, now you can configure your Typescript compiler with this. Yeah, you can now configure your Typescript compiler with the following config, which is like this. Right. So you're not able to see this in the tsconfig. Is this one tsconfig.ts? No, this is a JSON. Exactly. tsconfig JSON, and you can now see is the different options. So strict, force consistent. So all of these different options. So all of these different options that allow us to write code in a way that Typescript complains at build time, and we don't get any errors at build time, at runtime. All right. Good. All right. For example, like this. You say npm run def. No, no, I am too automized here. Npm run. Okay, npm star is using now. All right. It throws us an error, as it is. As you can see here, that's what happened. But as you can see, it throws us this error, right? So far, so good. Totally good. All right. Yep. For example, like this. Where webpack compiled successfully, but there was an error by the compiler. So, hey, the compiler here is whining. It's complaining about it. Okay, that was the component part, which is React component with Typescript. So React component with Typescript. And now that we know that what's going on behind the scene, especially once we look at the JavaScript and the async part of JavaScript, as well as the async part of JavaScript, the async nature of JavaScript, and how you can create objects here in JavaScript. Okay, but so far so good. Typing components exercise. So typing component exercise.
All right, so your mission is to take that control.jsx, do the very hard work of flipping that J to a T, right? And then what we want to do is refactor this.
This exercise, refactoring from props type and exercise. Okay. Wait, what? For real? Typing component exercise. Okay. Yes, it is. And now it is for us to read about that. All right, let's get the blood flowing a bit. Let's get the blood flowing a bit and take a look at this component. Let's get the blood flowing a bit. The blood flow. Oh my God, that's why from Ohio, Vamprisk. Yeah, Sleepy Hollow. Yeah, let's get the blood flow a bit. All right. So now that we have this component and the prop types here, import prop types. We're going to quickly migrate this component to TypeScript, from TypeScript to JavaScript. Wait, what? From TypeScript to JavaScript. This is mostly a setup to make a simple point. Having a mix of JavaScript and TypeScript as you're migrating is totally a thing. Oh, okay. Here's what you need to do. Change the file extension to GSX to TSX. Get rid of the gnarly prop types and add types to our repo, to our props. You can either do it inline or you can create a new type called control panel props. See if you can add another props to name batch called greeting. This prop should replace hello on the batch. See if you can figure out how to type the onChange handler. Hints: use what you have learned about hovering over properties and figuring out what types they use. If you can figure it out, you can cheat and the any type. But be warned, this is only time that I'm going to allow you to use any for the remainder of our time together. So if you don't want to clone the repository, then you can use this sandbox as well. All right. Go to that component, to the control. We're gonna change that. And here we're gonna pass this as the application name. As a string. You say, hey, this is Euler. There you go. All right, we save this. Ignore errors. So here our job is to change now to TSX and see how now can we fix this particular error here. Say, hey, binding element name implicit has any and on change. So you may wonder, it's like, okay, since now the name here is a string, but the onChange, I don't know what is this. You say prop type function here. So this is now prop types.
Process prop types into an actual prop and just kind of get warmed up and get into it. Like I said, for stuff that might not be totally obvious, try not to look at the docs. See if you can do it from just hovering over stuff in the editor and use the actual tools to figure out how to use the tools. It's like building your own lightsaber, right? Guys?
Yep. They say, hey, this is on change, but on change here is a prop type function. Or we say, well, this is a function. Okay, this is a function. But as you can see here, now input is say, hey, type function is not assignable to change event handler. You know? So now this actually is what we're going to receive here. So it can be a function, but this say, hey, type function is not assignable to change event handler. Okay. So it is a change event handler from the input, which means a change event handler here. And as you can see here, it say, hey, this event handler, which comes from React, okay, it now accept is an event, okay, and return nothing. So we actually fulfill this. It's like on change, but this is synthetic event. Let's gonna leave that for today's video. So that'll be all. Take care. Bye bye.